Okay, the last laboratory video is going to be on the cartilage. And of course, you guys can do the pseudo quizzes on your own. And that'll be a helpful tool for you. And so again, cartilage is avascular, whereas the connective tissue are all vascular, cartilage is avascular. And so let's take a look at some of the cartilages. And so right here, here you have a really good example of hyaline cartilage. I have another image next that'll blow this up. But in the matrix, you don't see any fibers. Once we enlarge this, you'll see it more clearly. It is avascular, so it has to get its nutrient needs met through this membrane called the perichondrium from the surrounding vascular connective tissues. And because the matrix is so dense, nutrients diffuse through it very, very slowly. And so if you damage the cartilage, it heals very, very slowly. Okay. The cells are called chondrocytes, and they're going to live in a little cavity called a lacunae. The membrane that surrounds the cartilage is the perichondrium, and that's going to be an irregular dense connective tissue. And with irregular dense connective tissue, the functional cell will be the fibroblast. You can see some hyaline cartilage here, here, and here. Here's some adipose connective tissue. Really hard for you guys to see this, but would be a ciliated pseudostratified columnar epithelia. Okay, so let's enlarge it so we can take a good look. So here we are. So again, there's three types of cartilages: hyaline, elastic, and fibro. And how do you tell the difference? Well, number one, the first thing you want to determine is it a cartilage? And if it's a cartilage, you'll see a lacunae with a chondrocyte, a lacunae with a chondrocyte, a lacunae with a chondrocyte. If you see a lacunae, you're dealing with a cartilage, and the chondrocyte is the functional cell. Now, looking in the matrix, I don't see any fibers, and therefore, this is hyaline. Now, this is not to say there aren't fibers in here, but with the staining procedures that we're doing, where they don't show up. And so when you don't see fibers, you're dealing with hyaline cartilage. And here's your perichondrium. And you can see the fibroblasts are dividing, giving rise to some new chondrocytes that are doing appositional growth. But right here you can see two cells sort of hugging together. That would be an interstitial growth. Hyaline cartilage, its function, it's moderate in its strength and flexibility. I always like to think of it as a jack of all trades. And so if you need something that's strong but not too strong, or elastic but not that elastic, hyaline cartilage might fit the bill. And so we find it at the tip of our nose, sort of acts like a bumper. On the another place we find it is in the costal cartilages. So maybe I should show you some costal cartilages real quick while I'm here. Hold on a second. I don't know if this is going to work or not. So hopefully, let's see, Google this up. So, costal, what am I doing? There we are. And so what you can see here is, here's the ribs, there's the sternum, and what's going from the rib to the sternum is hyaline cartilage straps. That's called the costal cartilages. And that allows us to expand our thorax when we inhale. Okay, let me just see if I can find a better image. Okay, so there it is. So all of this is the costal cartilage. It's colored red here. And so note the bony ribs do not actually come in contact with the sternum directly, but indirectly because of this costal cartilage. Okay. it is hyaline cartilage. Another place where you find costal cartilage is at the end of your bones. And I think I'm going to do that one as well. So let's get another image up here. And so here I have two bones that are coming together, and I don't want bone on bone because they'll grind. So what I put on the end of the bones is articular cartilage, which will allow the two bones to just move against each other with frictionless ease. Okay, we have a whole lecture on joints. We'll talk about that later on. But articular cartilage allows the bones to glide. Okay, and so this particular joint would be very characteristic of, say, between your fingers. Here's another example of a hyaline cartilage. Again, you got this creamy matrix, and there's no fibers in it. And I can see lacunae have chondrocytes in it. And so this is hyaline cartilage. Here's my perichondrium. And I note that, in here I have my interstitial growth. And then right up here, adjacent to the perichondrium, it would be an appositional growth. Elastic cartilage can distend and recoil, just like elastic connective tissue. But it's thicker and more dense. And so I can see some elastic connective tissue right here. Now, one place where you find this in particular is in your earlobe. And so if you take your ear and you bend it back, it will just snap back to where it was. And so what I have here is I got somebody's ear here. And so here I can see I have my keratinized stratified squamous epithelium on one side of the ear, keratinized stratified squamous epithelium on the other side of the ear. Here's this long earlobe, and there's that elastic cartilage will allow this thing to just distend and to bend and to just snap back to its original position. Now, it's hard to see this right here, so let's just enlarge it. And so there we are. And so now I'm looking at that band going through the ear. And so here's the matrix. You can see a lot of elastic fibers. And if there's any question as to whether this is a cartilage or not, I can see a lacunae with a chondrocyte. Lacunae with a chondrocyte. Here's your perichondrium. And then adjacent to the perichondrium, I have some appositional growth going on. But down here, I have my interstitial growth. Again, another example of elastic cartilage. It has a moderate number of fibers. Remember, hyaline, no fibers. Elastic cartilage, moderate fibers. And fibrocartilage, lots of fibers. So besides your ear, another place where you find this tissue is surrounding your eustachian tube. And so that tube will distend and recoil every time your ears pop when there's pressure changes. Another example of elastic cartilage. You can really clearly see the interstitial growth here and the appositional growth here. There's more interstitial. And so you can see the two types of growth quite well in this image. Last tissue is fibrocartilage. And if you look here at this image, you can see, when you're dealing with it, how do you know this is not regular dense connective tissue or if it's a cartilage? Well, again, I don't want to be too redundant. I'm always redundant, but I can see a lacunae with a chondrocyte. A lacunae, there's another lacunae. So this is a cartilage. But the matrix is densely packed with collagen fibers. And so this is a very strong, tough tissue. And and it acts sort of like a shock absorber. And so where we find this fibrocartilage is between the bodies of the vertebrae. So they're taking up some shock when we walk or run. And also in the symphysis pubis of the pelvis, you'll find this fibrocartilage. Remember, all these cartilages are avascular. Here's another good example of fibrocartilage. I've got my lacunae. Here's the nucleus of a chondrocyte, densely packed with collagen fibers. This is fibrocartilage. And again, you find it in the symphysis pubis and the intervertebral discs. And the last example of fibrocartilage. I think it's the last one. Oh, one more. And again, you can sort of discern, this one's a little harder, but you can discern there's a lacunae there that's housing this cell. But there's a lot of fibers there that make this our fibrocartilage. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the review. As you continue studying this material, you can go through these the videos again. You can cut and paste, or you could do screenshots of anything. We also have all of these links here. When you do your lab practical, what you will see are the images. Okay, the images could come from here or the pseudo quizzes. So you just want to make sure that everything is very, very visible. Sometimes students will make little special files and just cut and paste them into the file with the information. You do whatever works for you, but make sure that your study is visual.